An eyeball stares from a sealed crate as it grinds across wet concrete. Heavy machinery shoves it toward the island facility like it is just cargo. The night air is thick with rain and salt, and the crate rattles as if something inside is breathing. The park's first secret arrives already angry. Muldoon takes control with sharp commands and a hunter's focus. He treats the crate like a loaded weapon, not a delivery. For a second, everything looks disciplined and professional. Then the routine breaks and a worker is killed in a burst of confusion and screams. Muldoon's face hardens as he realizes the park's promise of control is already a lie. Joffrey steps near the crate, trying to follow procedure while instinct screams to back away. The metal shakes at the wrong moments, like something inside is timing him. He glances to Muldoon for reassurance and gets only urgency. When the latch area shifts, the air feels suddenly colder. The night turns from routine work to nightmare and a heartbeat. Far from the island, an amber mine bakes under harsh light and grit. Water slaps against a small raft at the edge of a rocky cut. In the stone, tiny golden fragments wait like preserved time. Every sample pulled from the rock feels like a lottery ticket for the park's future. The ground here is quiet, but the implications are loud. Gennaro arrives already irritated, thinking about investors and liability. He expected respect and welcomes, but gets mud and unanswered questions. The mine looks improvised, not reassuring. He reminds himself he is here to inspect safety, not be impressed. Yet the air carries the sense that something enormous is being hidden behind paperwork. Restaño guides Gennaro toward the fresh find with the confidence of a man holding treasure. A worker reports another mosquito trapped in amber, and the mood snaps into focus. Restaño talks like this solves everything, like science is just a key you turn. Gennaro hears only risk multiplying. The tiny insect looks harmless, yet it feels like the first domino. On the mainland, a fossil site spreads across dry ground under a wide sky. Bones emerge from dirt like a message from deep time. Tools are laid out in careful rows, and tents flap as wind rises. The work feels patient and honest compared to what the park promises. This is discovery without control, knowledge without ownership. Grant studies the bones with the calm certainty of someone who trusts evidence. He talks about raptors like a warning disguised as a lecture. A nervous kid listens, unsettled by how easily Grant imagines predation. Grant's tone is clinical, but his eyes are sharp. He knows the past was not gentle, and he refuses to romanticize it. Ellie moves through the site with practical energy, tracking soil and plant traces with equal interest. She teases Grant about kids, but the joke hides a real discomfort about the future. When dark weather approaches, she shifts into action, securing the site without drama. Her competence makes the work feel stable. That stability will not last once the island calls. Hammond arrives like a showman with money behind the smile. He offers champagne and a proposal that sounds impossible on purpose. Grant and Ellie sense the hook beneath the charm, yet curiosity bites first. Hammond promises wonders, safety, and a chance to change history. The invitation feels like stepping onto a stage where the lights are too bright to see the edges. A small plane cuts over open water toward an island wrapped in mist and green. The landing strip sits on stilts like a fragile promise. The air is humid, heavy, and alive in a way the mainland dig never was. Every mile closer makes the offer feel less like science and more like gamble. The island waits like it already knows their names. Hammond narrates the island like a proud architect, naming features as if words create safety. He wants endorsements more than questions. The facility looks polished, but the jungle presses close, refusing to be tamed. Hammond believes presentation can tame fear. The island answers with silence that feels amused. In a clearing, a giant animal moves with slow grace, too large to be believed. Leaves tremble as it passes, and the ground seems to respect its weight. The sound is not a roar, but a low presence that makes talking feel rude. The park's miracle is suddenly physical. Wonder arrives hand in hand with dread. Grant can barely breathe as his worldview rewrites itself in real time. He studies movement, skin, and breath like he's afraid the image will vanish. Awe hits him first. Then the scientist's dread follows right behind. He knows predators existed for millions of years without fences or rules. Here, someone believes rules are enough. The main building is bright and clean, filled with bones arranged like a cathedral. A massive skeleton towers overhead, a reminder that the past was not decorative. Glass cases display tools and models that turn extinction into a sales pitch. Everything is designed to make fear feel manageable. The building smells like money and disinfectant. Outside, the jungle does not care. Wu explains the science with calm pride, turning miracles into steps on a chart. He talks about amber, DNA, and control as if nature is a system you can own. Grant listens, impressed and unsettled by equal measure. Ellie watches Wu's confidence and hears arrogance hiding inside it. The park is built on certainty, and certainty is dangerous. Amber sits under a lens like a tiny universe, perfectly preserved. Needles and glass and lights turn ancient blood into a modern product. The lab runs like a kitchen with ingredients measured and mixed. No one in the room can measure consequences the same way. The park sells wonder, but the process feels like theft. Malcolm turns the tour into an argument about arrogance and chance. He says the system will break because complex life does not stay inside clean boxes. Hammond hears negativity and waves it away with optimism. Grant hears a warning that matches his own unease. Ellie hears a moral line being crossed and wonders who pays for it first. Malcolm smiles because he knows reality always gets the last word. Gennaro watches the experts argue and feels the ground shifting under his job. He came for inspection, but the park feels like a machine built to overwhelm scrutiny. He thinks about contracts, liability, and the way fear spreads through investors. The wonder is real, but so is the risk, and risk is what he is paid to name. He realizes the park's dream depends on everyone ignoring the obvious. In a warm hatchery room, shells crack and tiny movements begin. Hammond frames it as triumph and proof of control. Grant sees life doing what it always does, expanding beyond intention. Ellie watches the newborns and thinks about responsibility, not applause. The park's future starts in this room, fragile and unstoppable. Hammond watches a hatchling with the satisfaction of a man who believes he won an argument with nature. He talks about controlled breeding and neat boundaries. Malcolm's warnings echo in the background, unwelcome but persistent. The joy on Hammond's face looks real, and that makes the coming failure sadder. The park is not just a business to him, it is a legacy he refuses to doubt. Grant is brought to a secure enclosure, and the mood changes from wonder to caution. He studies signs, spacing, and the geometry of containment. The air feels tense, as if the fence is a suggestion instead of a rule. Grant recognizes intelligence in the silence beyond the barrier. He does not say it out loud, but he knows something is learning. Harding kneels beside a sick herbivore and tries to keep his voice calm. Ellie reads the scene like a warning the park refuses to post on billboards. Even without predators, the animals are not predictable, and the island is not gentle. The illness feels like the park's first honest problem. Harding knows medicine fixes bodies, not the choices that created them. Storm clouds swallow the sky, and the island's beauty turns sharp and hostile. Trees bend and fences hum as wind builds. Staff talk about safety protocols with forced confidence. Malcolm calls it predictable and Hammond calls it manageable. The rain arrives like a curtain dropping on the first act of disaster. Arnold stares at the system screens as alerts stack up like bad news. He trusts the code but distrusts the people around it. The storm makes every sensor scream and every fix feel temporary. Hammond pushes for confidence, but Arnold hears the fragility under the polish. He keeps working because stopping would be surrender. Nedry sits alone in the glow of monitors, resentment simmering under jokes. He tells himself he is only correcting a wrong, not creating one. He pockets a plan and smiles like it is harmless. Outside, the rain covers sound and movement, the perfect cover for bad decisions. When Nedry acts, the park's cages begin to fail without warning. Lights along the fence flicker and then go steady in an uneasy rhythm. Radios crackle with partial messages, and the storm makes every sound feel distorted. Somewhere in the park, invisible boundaries turn uncertain. The island does not need villains to become dangerous. It only needs a gap. The rain hides the moment the park loses control. Nedry drives a jeep through mud, convinced he can outsmart consequences. The road is slick and visibility is trash, but greed makes him reckless. He skids, curses, and wrestles with a winch like the island is personally mocking him. Every delay tightens the trap he built for himself. The storm does not care what he planned. Tour cars sit stalled on a dark road, headlights trapped in sheets of rain. The jungle presses in from both sides, loud with unseen movement. The fence nearby hums with uncertain power. Silence inside the cars turns into panic as something large approaches. The park's showcase becomes a cage in seconds. Lex tries to be brave, but fear makes her small in the huge darkness. She looks for adults and finds only rain and shaking shadows. Every sound feels like a step closer. Her brother clutches her hand and both pretend they understand what is happening. The island does not care how old you are when it decides to test you. Malcolm steps into the open with a flare and a grin that looks like courage and denial. He tries to pull danger away from the cars by becoming the loudest target. For a moment the plan works, and the park's nightmare follows the brightest thing in the dark. Malcolm's confidence cracks when the ground trembles near him. He learns what his theories feel like when they have teeth. Grant forces himself toward the cars because the kids are trapped and time is gone. He uses a flare to make himself seen, gambling on distraction. The roar outside is not just sound, it is the world reshaping around a predator. Grant's hands shake once, then steady, because fear is not allowed to win right now. He moves like a man who finally understands his own lectures. Tim freezes as the car shakes and the night outside becomes enormous. He tries to be quiet, like quietness can become armor. He watches water stream down the glass and wishes it could wash fear away too. When the adult voices shout outside, Tim understands something is wrong beyond repair. Childhood ends fast in the rain. After the chaos, the fence line becomes a new problem instead of a solution. Cables hang over a drop, slick with rain, swaying with every gust. The ground below disappears into darkness like a mouth. The park's safety systems have turned into obstacles. Survival now depends on climbing down the very infrastructure that promised protection. Grant goes first, because leadership is just moving when others can't. He grips the cable and lowers himself into the drop with controlled panic. The kids watch him like he is a rope to the future. He tells them to focus on hands and breath, not the darkness. In his head, he repeats one rule: do not look down for too long. Lex follows with trembling determination, trying not to cry because crying wastes air. The cable is cold and slick, and the drop feels endless. She hears Grant's voice and clings to it like a lifeline. Somewhere above, the island keeps moving, indifferent. Lex learns she is braver than she wanted to be. Nedry stops in the rain and argues with his own bad luck, convinced the world is unfair to him personally. A small dinosaur appears with curious movements, almost playful at first. Nedry tries to control the moment with bravado and noise, and it fails instantly. What follows is fast, brutal, and final, and the park loses one more piece of its fragile illusion. The storm keeps falling like nothing happened. In the main building, the night turns into a hunted maze. The kitchen, once a showpiece, becomes a trap full of reflections and hard edges. Lex and Tim hide, listening to claws and breath just beyond their sight. Every metal surface amplifies tiny sounds into betrayals. The children realize the park is no longer a place. It is a predator's territory. Lex reaches a computer terminal and becomes the last line between chaos and escape. Grant and Ellie hold a door with shaking strength while the building shakes with impacts. The system reboots in painful seconds, each progress bar tick feeling like a heartbeat. When the lights stabilize, relief hits and then vanishes as new danger breaks in. Lex keeps typing anyway, because there is no adult solution left. The only way out is forward, even through vents and ducts and fear. By sunrise, the park's dream is broken, and the island feels older than the people who tried to own it. Hammond finally sees the cost of his ambition in the faces around him. Malcolm's warnings sound less like arrogance and more like prophecy. The survivors leave with bruises, terror, and knowledge that cannot be put back in a crate. The park is shut down, but the ethical damage stays alive. The island disappears behind mist and nobody celebrates.